So here we are again, and since my last video, what I've done is I've just finished the first year, 1955. I've only taken 4 turns: winter, spring, summer, and now we're in fall. At the end of 1955, about to move into 1956. And the plan is to video the entire of the next move. So, welcome back to Ici, c'est la France, 2nd edition by Kim Kanger from Legion Wargames. And thank you for joining us here again at Solo Board Gaming presents Ici, c'est la France. So first of all, we'd better have a look at the general position I find myself in after that first year. So I've had 1 year of play, and that's just 4 game turns. It's been quite incredible just how much has changed on the map in just 4 short game turns. Some of it has been a steep learning curve, and as I said before, I couldn't possibly do a full playthrough. It would take a dozen videos at least, probably more than that. So I think with many people, what they really want to see is the sequence of play, what happened during a typical game turn. So this is what we'll do now. But first of all, I'll bring you up to date as much as I can with just how much has happened in those 4 short game turns. So a quick tour of the battlefield then. So as I said before, there we are. We just finished the fall of the 1955 year, and we're just about to go into 1956. There's our 2 scales, Pied Noir and Government. Now, the Pied Noir scale on the left, that counter has been down here. But I've played enough events to push it back to the top. And basically the way it works anyway is if the Pied Noir scale reaches the bottom, Government Crisis, that's when it starts to push down this scale. Do you see what I mean? Each time it drops to Government Crisis, it starts to push down this scale, and then it's reset somewhere on the scale here, depending on what the instruction is on this side. And you're also able to play chit to push it back up to the top. So that's where we are. It looks like that hasn't moved at all, but it has moved down, and I've managed to push it back. So that's that. If we move over to the support level track, okay, you've got the French public opinion on 18, and we have the FLN counter on 6. Now, look how the support track has actually changed. Look how many areas are now at FLN support level. Area 1C, 1B, 4C, all gone over to the FLN. We do have Area 2B that is now in support of the government. We have FLN 5A, 5C, FLN level. And finally, we have still Area 3A at FLN support level, but it's moved on a little bit. It's moved up from 10, look, to 8. So it's quite a change there. And there's some toing and froing as event chits are played. Really good. Just starting to understand that now. Now, if you remember from setup, the FLN started from area, I think it was 3A, wasn't it? And again over here in 1C. Well, look what's happened since. There are now quite a lot of FLN controlled areas. See the control markers here, and see how the FLN guerrilla fighters have expanded. Another control area there, expanding throughout the region, basically from this sort of mountainous base here, which is very much very historic, recruiting a lot of Fallujah, and with more expansion over here, look, area 5C, and correspondingly so have the deployment of French troops who are trying to chase down the Fallujah units and search them out in order to bring them to battle. And I must say, one of the first things I've found is that it's been very difficult to search these guys out, particularly in the mountains. It's a little easier in the coastal areas, in the flat farmland areas, for instance. We've still got the Legion down here in the Sahara. And we've set our event counters up at the bottom of the map here. We'll go through those in a while. We've got the FLN political cell. Oh, there's been some rounding up and some interrogations taking place there. Hopefully we'll get to cover a little bit of that. And that's where we are right now. Big changes taking place here in Algeria. So we'll be following the sequence of play, like here on your player aid card. Okay? So we're starting with the political phase. But first of all, what do I have to do first? Just note as well, the troop density track has, in the intervening time, moved from 0 to 2. So troop density is at 2. We'll explain that as well when we get to it. But we finished the fall of 55. So we're now on the first seasonal turn, winter, of 1956. Okay? And one of the first things I've done is, one of my draw cups here, for instance, is full of French troops. Okay? And we've used all of our 1955 troops. These are the guys that are currently on the board. So now that I've moved to winter 56, I've now placed in the draw cup all of the French troops that show 56 in the bottom corner. There, look. There's a number 56. I don't know if you can see that, because I can't quite see my monitor to see what's in shot or not. Okay, so there's it is, 56 in that bottom corner. So they've all gone into the draw cup at the start of this year. Back in 1955, all of the troops with 55 in the corner went into the draw cup. So now we're ready to start with operations points. So the FLN start with 10 points. So put it over here, number 10 on their ops point scale. Plus, for every region that's contested or that the FLN control, they get that region's population number in additional points. Oh, yes. So, this area is contested, so they get another 2 points. Over here, contested, another 2 points. That's 4 points. Over here, in FLN control, total 6 points. We just come round this side. Some of this might be off camera, so you just have to trust me on this one. 6 points. 7, 8 points for this controlled area here. Another controlled area here. 9 points. Control, 10 points. Control, 11 points. So they get another 11 points. They can't. They can only get a maximum of another 10 points. Look, because you can't go over 20. So that's fair enough. And we do one more thing. We minus from that the FLN number on this support level track. This shows how many logistical problems that the FLN have. And that's 6. So we minus 6 from the 20. And that brings us down to 14. Easy peasy. The FLN have 14 ops points to spend during this turn. France is even simpler. They start with 10 points plus 1 point for each seasonal turn that we've made after the first one. And this is our 4th seasonal turn after the first one. So they get another 4 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. French ops are starting with 14 points. The next thing we do is draw political chits. Here's the political chits for France and for the FLN. Now, on each seasonal turn, except winter, and this is winter, but on every other seasonal turn, you'd first draw a chit from your draw cup to add to your stock. It's the winter turn, we don't do that. So we go straight into play a chit. And the way we do that is we roll 1 die. Oh, it's a 6. Okay. A 1, 2 and 3. Then France gets the initiative and plays first. 4, 5 and 6, the FLN get the initiative and they play first. It's FLN to play a chit first. Now, it's the start of 1956, of course, so the only political chits you can play are ones that include the year 1956. And I've sort of stack these up in year order. So see these 1956, 56, 56, 57, 57, 58, and so on up to 60, 61. Now, as I said, each turn except the winter phase, you'll be adding another chit anyway, so you should get more options, maybe. But meantime now, I have to decide as the FLN which of the 1956 chits I'm going to play. And finally, if I only had one 1956 chit, I would have to play it. Do you see? So the rule is, if a chit is playable, it must be played. In its turn, of course. So, Suez Crisis, Tunisia and Morocco, these are all playable. Middle East Unity, that's playable. I'm going to play, as the FLN, Middle East Unity, which could be played anywhere between 56 and 58. We're playing it now. So, here we are playing Middle East Unity, and I'm just going to put it there. So, what does Middle East Unity give to us? Well, first of all, according to our handy guide here, it gives us a D3 number of operations points. Thank you very much. So we roll a D3, which is a D6. Oh, that wasn't a very good roll, was it? We roll a D3, which of course is a D6. And we roll a 6. We halve it, 3. That's the number of operations points we receive. This is good for the FLN. Look, we go from 14, 15, 16, 17 operations points for this turn. And it also says -2 on the FLN scale and minus D3 on the French public scale. This is how we do that. So -2 on the FLN, 5, 4, that's good. Back to where they started. They've improved their logistics. But minus D3 for the French public. The French public don't like what's going on. Let's roll a D3. I've rolled a 2, halved is 1. Okay, that could have been worse. So the French public support goes down by another 1 to 17. That's the play of the FLN political chit. Now let's have a look at France. And again, these are the potential 1956 political chits. The rest are, look, 58, 59, 60, 61 kind of thing. Okay, so I can either play as France Capture Ben Bella or Breaking the Strike. Now, I don't know any particular strategy at the moment, and I need to make this clear. At the moment, I'm testing mechanics still. I don't know the game enough. I don't know the mechanics enough and what effects they have to be able to build up a strategy. So I'm really testing mechanics. So I'm going to choose Breaking the Strike 1956. Okay? So here's the chit, Breaking the Strike 1956. And looking at my chart here, it tells me, Breaking the Strike, France may add 1 step in 1 region in Wilaya 3 or 4, which is why we're focused here. This is Wilaya 3, see, delineated by that white border. And this is Wilaya 4, delineated by that white border there. They're split into regions, like so. So we can add 1 step in any one of these regions. But to decide which one, we need to have a look at our population tracks. Let's take a look now. So we look on the population track. This is region 3 and this is region 4, or rather Wilaya 4, Wilaya 3, split into the various regions, look. And we can add 1 step. In other words, move one of the counters for any of the regions up 1 step because we're adding. If it was minus, we'd move it towards FLN. If it's add, we'd move it upwards towards France. I think I'm going to concentrate on Wilaya 3 and move it towards France, up, adding 1 towards France, like so. Because as France, I want to prevent these counters reaching the green zones. Some of them are already well into the green zones, look. Now the reason I move that one is to move it, it's in the blue, to move it further down into the blue, further away from the green zone. But there was lots of choice there. Again, I'm not 100% on the strategy. I'm just working the mechanics at the moment. And it also says +1 PS. And once again, PS is the population support markers, which are all these. And they all get +1. So all of them now move 1 step towards France. I'll just do that and we'll come back. But the slightly detrimental effect is French public opinion. That's French public opinion back in France. You see, so that's a minus D3. So let's roll it to halved. French public opinion is down again by 1, down to 16. So that's the end of that political chit, because we both played 1. The next section would be a possible referendum. We're nowhere near that yet. So now we're into phase 2, reinforcement phase. So now we're into the second phase, and that is the reinforcement phase. And the first part of that is FLN recruitment. Well, first of all, with FLN recruitment, the first thing you can do is actually do some exchanges. Now, these are quite cheap to do, but you have to be fairly careful when you do them. and I'll try to explain this. There's a small table in the rules, and it tells you that there are 3 options to exchange on-map Phalanx for off-map Phalanx, ones that you still have in the bag. Why would you want to do that? Well, one reason might be to upgrade units from Musabalin to Mujahideen. Okay, so that's a little bit of an upgrade there, just to make the unit a little bit stronger. Or you might want to upgrade Mujahideen and Musabalin for zonal commandos. And I've done that, I think, twice during the game. I just hope it's going to prove useful. I'm going to do it now. For instance, this area here, this region of Walaya number 1, and it's region 1A. I'm going to take, what are these? A Mujahideen and a Musabalin. Okay? Now, according to this little table, I can exchange 1 Musabalin and 1 Mujahideen on the map for 1 off-map zonal commando. Where's my zonal? Here we go. So, I can take these 2 off, Mujahideen and Musabalin, and replace it with a much stronger zonal commando. By stronger, I mean much higher quality. Still very few of them, look. Quantity is just 1, the strength of the unit, but the quality of the unit is 3, zonal commando. And so I placed the zonal commando there. And in fact now, look at that. The guys building up in here are zonal commandos, 2 of them. Anyhow, they remain on the question mark side because to even bring them to combat, the French have to search for them. So that's why it's there. But this is why I say you have to be careful. Now, first of all, that one exchange cost half an operations point. That's all. So it's very cheap to do. But it might have changed the control of this area, which was currently under FLN control. We now have just 2 FLN units there. The population number is 1. And as I showed you earlier, our garrison strength for the whole of Algeria is 2. So to get the garrison strength for an area, you add that 2 to the population number, which is 3. So the garrison strength here, bear with me, is 3 in this area. For the FLN to gain control, they have to equal or beat the garrison number. So the minimum number of Fallujah here needs to be 3 because the garrison number is 3. So to keep control, we need at least 3 Fallujah. So you see what I've done? It was 3, but I took 2 of them off because I wanted to upgrade them, but that means that I now only have 2 units. But it doesn't go back to French control, because for French control, the garrison number, which we've explained is 3, needs to be twice that of the amount of FLN units. So the garrison number, garrison strength would have to be 4 for this to go back into French control. If it's French control, there's no marker there at all. Anything else, and this isn't anything else, now becomes instead contested. So that's still a contested area, but it's no longer under FLN control because of what I just did. And I've spent half an operations point. I'm going to do something similar. Here, still in Walaya number 1, but region C, it's under FLN control. I'm going to take these top 2. What are they? Okay, weak units. Musabalin. And according to the table, I can exchange 2 Musabaleen for 1 Mujahideen. There's my Mujahideen that I'm upgrading to. And I'll take these Musabaleen off. I'll add my Mujahideen to the region, like so. Now, has that changed control of this region, which was previously FLN controlled? Okay, the garrison strength at the moment, the garrison number for the whole map, I said, was 2. Plus population of the region, 3. So the garrison strength here is 3. If we equal it with the number of Falaji units, it's in FLN control. And we still have 3, despite the exchange, against 3 garrison strength. It's still in FLN control. So I hope by doing those 2 small exchanges, I've shown how the garrison strength works as regards French control, FLN control, or contested. So when you are doing these exchanges or moving units on the map, be careful because control is changing all the while. So I've done 2 exchanges, so it's cost me 1 operations point to do that. Very cheap. Okay, so we're still with the FLN. I've just taken that 1 point off on their ops points track. They're down to 16, still a huge number of ops points. So hopefully they're going to do well. Now, recruitment. I don't want to spend too many ops points on recruitment because recruitment can cost anywhere between half a point per recruit to 2 points per recruit, depending on where we're recruiting. And again, the table for this is in the rule book. So that gives you your recruitment costs. So using that, first rule is we can recruit from anywhere that has a population number. Okay, so we've got here population 1, population 1, population 2, population 2, population 1, and so on. You get the idea. And that population number would tell you that that's the maximum amount of units we can recruit in that region. Okay? No more than 1, no more than 2, and so on. But for us to recruit at all, that region must already have a Falaji unit in that region. For instance, this tells us that that's got a recruitment potential there, number 3C, of 1 unit. But I can't recruit there because I have no other Falaji units there already. So we need a population number and we need there already to be a Falaji unit there in the region. But one more thing. If the region is at FLN level, and FLN level is not FLN controlled, it means FLN level on the population support track up here. Remember, some of them were at FLN level. I won't move the camera now, but I can see that track from where I am. So I'm going to concentrate on doing just a couple of recruitments on regions that are in FLN level that have enough support for us according to the population track. And that means I can recruit an extra Falek there. 4C over here has FLN support from the population. Its population number is 2, so I could normally recruit 2 Falaji units there, but the support in the region allows me to recruit an extra 1, so 3 of them. And of course, I've already got units there, so that makes it viable. So from there, because of the support, I can recruit 3 units. I'm going to do that. Okay, I'm just going to put my recruits here. There's the 3 units I'm recruiting. Another strange rule, and I get it, because it'd be unrealistic otherwise, is that each first recruit has to be Musabaleen. Even numbers, Mujahideen, And again, the third one is an odd number, Musabalin. So that's how they have to be recruited. It's so that you can't pile a load of mujahideen in there and so on. So those are the 3 recruits for the area of 4C over here. And let's have a look. At what that's cost me, first of all. Okay, it's cost me 1 ops point to do that recruitment. And really that's because area 4C, region 4C, if I look over on my population track, it has full FLN support within the region, but the support level is 11. If it was 10 or lower, in other words, more in the green, that would have only cost me half a point. But again, the table is clearly there in the book, so just follow that table. But hopefully you can see how to interpret that. So this has cost me 1 point again. So I'll adjust the track down to 15 ops points. But now it's changed the status. It was contested because we had 3 against a 2 population plus 2 for garrison. So a garrison strength of 4, but we only had 3, which is what was contested. Now the garrison level is 4, but now we have 6 Fallujah units there. So that changes from contested to FLN controlled. Now it's time for French reinforcements. So, whoops, it's moved. So we go to our tub where we put all of the 1956 units in this cup, remember? Right at the beginning of the winter term, at the beginning of the year. So they're all in there. And all we need to do is to roll 1d6. Okay. 1! That's a terrible roll for France. But what that means, it tells us how many units to draw out of the cup. Now, that was a 1. It could easily have been a 6, couldn't it? But at the moment, that's how the cookie crumbles. And we draw 1 reinforcing unit. Let's have a look what it is. Oh, okay. It's the 18th Dragoons. There they are. 18th Dragoons. Like so. Now, the 18th Dragoons now get placed in any of the port areas, any of the harbour areas, the anchors, along the Algerian coast. Where do I want this guy to go? In fact, I'm going to put him in Algiers. That's a harbour. Because I've just realised there's a lot of FLN build-up around here, and we have to start doing something about that. So that's quite simple. That was the French reinforcements. The next thing is replacements. So I'm looking around the board. We had a bit of combat last couple of turns that hasn't been videoed. And I remember that means, there we go, there. We've got a French unit here on its reduced side. You can see, instead of 4 there, it's got a red 3. I can flip that because it's received replacement units to its full strength side. That's cost half a point. And over here, if that's on camera, hopefully, again, I can see a red quality mark there, reduced side, another half a point to get replacements to that unit. Like so, so it's full strength. So that's 1 point again. So, off camera, I will spend 1 point for France, and they now have 13 points. How simple is that? That was phase 2, reinforcement phase, which means we can move straight on to the move and attack phase. Lovely, we're doing okay. So, let's start the move and attack phase. And again, there are several steps in the move and attack phase. And the first step is FLN movement. I'm not going to do too much movement because, for instance, if I expand into a French-controlled area, so a French-controlled region is any region that has no management marker in it. In other words, it doesn't say FLN control, it doesn't say contested. If it's French-controlled, there's simply no marker there. So, for instance, these regions here, this one, French-controlled. So although I do want to expand as the FLN, I don't want to use up too many of my operations points. So these are the decisions, these are the balances that you are making all the time. Because each time we move into a French-controlled area, it costs us 1 point, 1 operations point. And that's per Fallagia, per unit. Otherwise, there's no movement point allowance. You know, there are no movement points, for instance, printed on any of the counters. You could theoretically move anywhere on the map. But the controls in place do make that a little impractical. So, the first thing we've discussed is that movement into a French-controlled region costs you 1 point, and you have to stop there. Otherwise, it doesn't cost points, but a Fallagia unit also has to stop if it enters a region with no Fallagia unit there already. Aha! So, for instance, to move a Fallagia unit from this region here, 1B, into 1A, there's Fallagia units already there. That's going to cost nothing. And I wouldn't have to stop there. I could continue moving if possible. But, for instance, to move a unit from 3A into 3C, for instance, there isn't a Phalec or Fallagia, whichever way you want to call them. There isn't a unit already there. So again, I would have to stop. If we enter a community, which are towns and cities, you have to stop. And this is making some sense. Towns, because it takes a while to penetrate the towns and move through them. So that's why we're stopping. A region that doesn't already have a Fallagia unit in it, it may be because that may mean you're not getting the assistance to actually move through it. The logistics aren't set up yet, so you have to stop. So, let's try a couple of moves. I'd like to move into a couple of towns, I think. The stacking limit in a town, by the way, for the FLN is just 1 unit. Yeah. So I think, first of all, we'll move a unit from here. Again, you have to be careful. If you're going to move a unit, is it going to change the balance and the control? Well, no. The garrison strength here is 2, plus the 2 of the global garrison strength, that's 4. And we're still leaving, well, there's still 5 units there. Anyhow, we will move into that border town there. And we have to stop because we've moved into a community. Now, another thing I'm thinking about is recruitment next turn for the FLN. If you remember, we can recruit where we already have a Fallagia unit. So, let's take another look. Let's move 1 Phalec unit from here, 3A, into 3B. Now, that will cost me an operations point, because I've moved into a France-controlled area. It hasn't changed the control of Area 3A. You have to keep counting those all the while. So we have to stop our movement because there wasn't a Fallagia unit already there. So I hope this is starting to make a little bit of sense. We're going to take a Fallagia unit from here, 1B, and into that community there. I have to stop because it's a community, but it's not cost me anything. And I'm testing a little thing I've just learned slightly earlier on in the game. I'm now occupying these communities, these towns, and I'll show you the reason for that shortly. This area, however, has now changed control to contested. And that's because the global garrison density is 2 plus population 1, so that's 3. I no longer equal it. So it's now contested. And I think I'm going to make just one more move, and that's over here in the west. Okay, here. And the idea of this is just to keep the French forces a little busy. We'll move this Falager unit across the regional border into area 5G. It doesn't change the status of 5C. It was contested and it's still... Oh no, just a second. I won't change it. I've made the move. It has to stop because it's in a French-controlled area, so that's fine. But the population is 2, the troop density global is 2, so the garrison strength of 5C is 4, which is now double the amount of Falager units in that area. So it's no longer contested. It is, in fact, so I withdraw that, reverted to French control. Just caught that there. Now, the FLN fighters have expanded so much throughout the whole of Algeria from their original bases in the mountains here, really quite spreading out now, and they're going to start stretching the French forces, which is a good thing for the Algerian cause. But the next thing we have to check is supply. That's FLN supply. And it's really, really quick to do. Basically, and at its most simple, the supply limit for any region, okay, is its population number plus 5. And the result of which, that's how many fighting units that region can support. A major city, by the way, can support 3 phalanx. But there aren't any of the 3 major cities that have any phalanx in them at all at the moment. So back to the regions. So population number plus 5. So for instance, 3B here can support 7 phalanx or Falager units, depending on what you want to call them. It means then, of course, that every region with a population number can support at least 6 phalanx. So instantly, that there isn't anywhere on the map at all that's out of supply, because I am keeping them below that limit. The only change to that is if any Falager units were in Wilaya number 7, the regions of which have no population numbers, and therefore the maximum limit would be 5. So you're very rarely going to be out of supply. Suffice to say, right now, the FLN is fully in supply. By the way, just a reminder, when we did that movement phase, there were 2 areas we moved into that were in French control, and therefore it cost us 2 points. I've already deducted those. We're down to 11 operations points now for the FLN. Now, just before the next segment, the next thing we check for is any additional ops points available for the FLN. So this is the second point in this whole game turn, whereas the FLN, you can now check again if there are any extra ops points available. Now it'll make sense as to why I moved into these communities. Because we'll get 1 extra point for every major city we control, but we don't control any. 1 point for every 2 cities that FLN controls. We don't control any. But also 1 point for every 3 towns that the FLN controls. And we control Bourg-bu Arégi, Tizi Ouzou, and Bouira. And those, 2 of them, were the communities I moved into during my movement phase. So we get 1 point for occupying 3 towns. It's not a lot, but it could be critical. So I'm now going to go from 11 ops points to 12 again for the FLN. Okay. If we want to now, we can spend some more ops points to carry out some structure attacks. We're in a lot of these regions now. We've expanded so much. Should we start making some structural attacks within these regions? Let's try just one of them. I'm going to try and make a structural attack in region 3A. Now, don't expect anything spectacular. This is a slow burn in a long game. So if you like, imagine doing this around the map 32 times, once every game turn, pick an area and try and carry out structural attacks. But can we? First of all, we have to test the logistics. So we roll 3 dice. Ta-da! And the 3 dice must add up to equal or greater than the FLN logistics capability. It's added up to 5, 7, 8. The FLN logistics capability at the moment is 4, so it's easily beaten it. It's within that, carrying out the structural attack is easily within our logistics ability. Can I just point out that at the beginning of this turn, Winter 56, that was up here at number 6. It's improved. The greater it is, the worse it is for the FLN. It's improved back down to 4. But we weren't far from it with that die roll. So the FLN does need to keep that logistics marker down the low end. But we've beaten it for now. Now we want to roll the same number of dice as the total number of phalanx in the region. And this is all in the rule book here. It's very easy to follow. So, how many phalanx we got in the region? Well, we got 1 in the town, 3 more, so that's 4. And you can only roll a maximum of 4 die anyway. But if there was only 1 phalanx there, we would only roll 1 die. If there were 2, we would roll 2 die, and so on. But the maximum is 4, and we can roll those dice. So we're going to roll them. Has the attack been successful? What should we do? Well, I'm going to say there's a rail line in this area, and that's what we're attacking. Kaboom! And for a successful attack, you need a 5 or a 6. Doesn't matter how many 5 or 6s you throw, as long as you throw a 5 or a 6, and that attack has been, boom, successful. And that means we take that area now. And seeing that successful attack, support for the FLN grows in that area. And look, the area was already pro-FLN. It was area 3A. We attack the rail line, and that moves now even closer up the scale by 1 towards pro-FLN, making it harder and harder for France to get that area back to pro-France. Now, I said, don't expect a spectacular result, and it wasn't. It's a slow burn in a long game when you're going to use structural attacks. But imagine doing it at least once every single turn. And it costs us just 2 operations points to do it. So we go from 12, 11, down to 10. Wow. I've been very conservative with my ops points, and any we don't use, we'll lose at the end of this game turn. But I've been saving them for a reason, and it'll be to carry out some insurgency actions, I think. So that's structural attacks. Now, let's get our French hat back on now, because we're going to carry out search an attack, because to make an attack, we've first got to find the Fallujah units. And as you've seen, this is the reason why the units all have the question mark on top. This is the reverse of the Fallujah units. We know they're there, but not exactly who or what they are. So let's look at Area 4C. I have 3 units of French troops in this mountainous area. It's been really troublesome and they've been really building up. It's about time we tried to reduce the FLN presence in this area. Okay, so we've got 3 units, 1 unit of paras, high quality. These 2 units are mechanized units, basically chasseurs, and they get a -1 to their die roll results for searching in mountain areas, and this is a mountain area. Okay, so I'm going to roll dice. So we start off by taking an amount of dice equal to the troop density. The troop density globally is 2. So we take 2 die. Add 1 die for every 2 French units. So there's a 3rd die. And the total number of dice may never exceed the amount of troop units in the area anyway. So I could have shortcut that, and most times you can simply by counting the number of troop units and using that many die. That's normally the outcome. So let's roll these dice. I have to -1 from 2 of the dice. So let's say the 2 white dice will be the chasseur units and the black die will be the para unit. But it's area 4C, and if I look over up here on my population track, over there, that we've been looking at quite a lot, area 4C at the top is under FLN support. It's at FLN support level. So we -1 from all of the dice because they get so much support from the community. They've got lots of safe places to hide. This is a typical insurgency thing that we find. Hearts and Minds are won at the moment in 4C by the FLN, so they get assistance when the French are doing their searches. So it's -1 from all of the die. Let's roll. Searching. 1, 3, and 5. We have to -1 because of the FLN support from all of the die. So that 5 becomes a 4. In fact, it would become a 3 because it's one of the motorized units. So I've now spent, as the French, 2 operations points on that search. I'm going from 13 to 11 points. And the whole search failed. Let's remind ourselves, one of the reasons for its failure was because I used motorized troops in a mountainous area, for one. Another reason was the amount of support that the FLN has in that area. And that's cost me 2 operations points. Let's do a search in another area. I'm thinking 5C. Over here. Oh, and I've just looked at the population support board, and 5C has also gone over to FLN sympathy. No! The FLN are really doing well. I mean, they really are. As regards Hearts and Minds, let's see what units we have here. Okay, no, they're fine. There is a motorized unit there, but it's not in the mountains. So let's try again. We'll be using 3 dice, but 5C has popular support for the FLN, so we'll be -1 from all of the dice. Let's use 3 die. What do we have? 6, 2 and 1. -1 is a 5, so we may have found one of those units. And because it's in the rural area, we get +1 for our searches because they are easier to find. So that goes to 2, 3, but they get minused again. And that one back to 6. We have found one of those units we can attack. So I'm going to choose one of my units to attack. I think I'll use the 6th Cuirassier. And as the FLN, I'm going to choose one of the units to go up against them. Oh, they're both very weak. They're both Musabeline. So we take one of the Musabeline over to the attack chart. So we've got the 6th Cuirassier versus this Musabeline unit. It has to be said that once the fighting starts, once we've sought them out and forced them to battle, they don't stand a chance. 9 times out of 10, you're going to destroy that unit as the French. But first of all, from our draw cup, we take a tactics chit, one for each side. Okay, so I'm going to draw a chit. I want a blue and a green. There's the green. I want a blue. What? There's the blue. What do we have? Hide, which works against flanking. And recon, which works against hide. So the French have been successful in their tactics because basically, if the bottom tactic, and here it's hide, is the one that your enemy has chosen, you get the advantage. And this advantage here is strikes first. So if the French destroy the Musabeline unit, it doesn't get a chance to strike back. If it wasn't for that, they both have a go at one another before you carry out the result. Okay, fair enough. So first of all then, strikes first. France will attack. And that, the strength points, is the number of dice we'll use. And in this case, it's 2 die. Then we look at our quality, which is 3. The Musabeline quality is 1. The difference is 2. So we'll be adding 2 to each of our die rolls. Wow. Here goes the die roll. We have a 4 and a 4. Add 2 to each. Both of them are 6. And again, we're looking for a 5 or 6 for a successful kill. And it's as simple as that. That unit has been killed. We put those back in the cup. And 6th Cuirassier goes back to Area 5C. A successful operation there. We've reduced that strength by 1. Let's try one more. We'll try for a search. We're carrying out a search. Have we got any motorized units? No, we're okay. We're searching in the mountains, Area 1C. But again, over on our population track, the FLN has popular support in this area. This is tough to find these guys, and it should be. We're going to take our 3 die, roll. What do we have? 1, 4, 6 is the result. We needed a 5 or 6. We minus 1 because of the FLN support in that area. So they're nothing anyway. That one's down to a 5. It still means that we've found a Fallujah unit. Who's going to do the fighting? We'll take these guys. Who's going to do the fighting for the FLN? Oh, we've got 2 Mujahideen and a zonal commando. We'll use the zonal commando. But notice all of them only have 1 strength. you're only ever going to be using one die for the FLN. That's a shame. But they were small units when compared to regular French military. Let's go. Here they are set up. The zonal commando there. I hope he survives. That's a great unit. Okay, we draw our tactics. There's one for FLN and one for France. And look, this one's effective against flank, and France have drawn flank. Theirs is effective against stand. No good to them, because the FLN has hide. So the FLN will get a +1 die roll modifier and do get a chance to hit back. So they're going to get 2 dice. The difference in quality is 1, so they're going to get +1 with 2 die. 6 +1 is 7, and that's hit. So effectively that zonal commando is a gunner, but he gets a chance to fight back. He gets 1 die, and he gets a +1 on the die. 4 +1 because the tactics he uses 5. That's a hit on the French unit. So the French unit loses a step and goes over to the red side. His qualities just come down a little. He goes back to the zone. He goes back in the bag. That's a shame. So we've lost our zonal commando from Area 1C. There's that depleted French unit there with the red quality number. Our Falaji units have been reduced. It's now just 2 instead of 3. The garrison strength we know is 3, 1 + 2. Therefore, we can't equal it. That is now contested. So to sum up this move so far, the FLN units really increasing their influence throughout the country, particularly in these mountainous regions. The Aurus Mountains, the Kabylie Mountains, which is basically all this range here. And historically, that's really factually correct. But France has pushed back, moving troops into the mountains to search out and contest these areas once more. Now, a reminder of the operations points. The FLN still have a good number, 10 operations points. The French, because of the amount of searching they did, are now down to 7 operations points. And so finally, we come on to the last phase, which is the insurgency phase. And it starts with the FLN insurgency actions if we want to take any. And I think we, as the Algerian FLN, do want to carry out some insurgency actions. Now, basically, with the FLN insurgency actions, we can carry out as many insurgency actions as we can afford. Each one costs us 3 operations points, but we can only carry out 1 in any one particular region, if you see what I mean. So we can carry out several, but they have to be in different regions. Now, we can either spread propaganda, we can assassinate pro-French activists, or we can build political cells. I find that quite powerful. And I used that all the way through 1955. And that's why we now have so many FLN support markers on the population support card up the top there. So let's go to that card and carry out some insurgency. Each insurgency costs us 3 ops points. So they're quite expensive. But we've saved 10 ops points altogether. So we're going to use 9 of them to carry out all 3 insurgencies as long as they're in different regions. Firstly, we'll spread propaganda. And by doing that, we can change a population marker from support level for France, and there's one there, flip it down to activist level, and move it 1 step towards pro-FLN. Haha, okay. Area 2B, currently support. We flip it to activist. Still France, but not as powerful. And we move it 1 towards pro-FLN. And that's cost us 3 points. We now have 7. Let's assassinate a pro-French activist. Replace that region's activist marker back to purge level. Can't do it in the same place twice, but we have one here. Back to purge level. So we take 3B off and we put its purge level marker on and move it 1 step towards FLN. By gosh, the Algerian cells are doing really well. And now the most powerful one, and by the way, that cost us another 3 points. And now the most powerful one, build political cells. Flip a population marker from purge to FLN level. And I'm going to use Algiers, the city. We'll go from purge to FLN level by turning it over, FLN support, and you move it up 1 towards pro-FLN, or at the very least to 10. There it is. The first of our cities goes pro-FLN. It costs 3 points. We now only have 1 operations point left. A successful insurgency phase, I'd say. And again, quite a lot of difference has been made on this board, which is certainly, in general, showing that public feeling is more pro-FLN than it is pro-France. And now the town of Algiers has found a lot of local support for the FLN. In general, this has not been a great turn for France. The FLN have been spreading out across the map. They've been garnering more and more local support, as we've seen on the population support track. And the areas causing the biggest problems for France are undoubtedly 3A, which is very pro-FLN, as is 1C in the mountains down here, very pro-FLN. I think it's time France fought back with a counter-insurgency operation of its own. I think we're going to round up some of the political cells in Area 3A and see what a bit of interrogation can do. Can we find the leader and capture him? Let's take a look. French counter-insurgency move coming up. So let's send our security forces and squaddy out into the region to see if we can capture these lower level members of the FLN political cell in that troublesome area. Because we know who these guys are. Can we capture them? All 4 dice, a 4, 5 or 6 will result in a capture. Let's go. 4, 4, 6. 3 of them are captured. 2 of the black squares, that's how it works, and 1 of the white squares. So we'll capture this guy, and this guy. See the 2 black squares and the white square. Now we roll as many die as the guys we've captured, and we interrogate them to see if we can find out who the next level in the organisation are. Can we find Ali Lapointe or Ben Mahidi? So we need 2 black die and 1 white. See how this is working now. 4, 5 or 6. Let's go. Oh, 3. 3 is nothing and a 6. Wow, okay. And it's a white 6. So it's Ben Mahidi that's captured. Dun, dun, dun. Ali Lapointe is still at large. So we have just one guy to interrogate. Who is the guy at the top? Can we get to him? We roll 1 die, because we've only captured 1 of them. 4, 5 or 6. Let's go. It's a 3. We've not done it! Ah, he's still free. And we spent 3 points doing that. 1, 2, 3. We're down to 4 points. I'm going to try once more. Simply because we can't save these points. By the way, other things I could do, instead of rounding up these guys, is detect pro-French activists or mobilise the masses. But I want to stay on here. Let's go again. This time, can't do the same region, but I could in 1C, so I'm going to do it. 4 dice again. And I need a 4, 5 or 6. The 2 white ones have been successful, so we've captured 2 guys this time. So, this cell is in the mountains, obviously, that's why. So we roll that many die. Both of them are white, it has to be the correct colour. So, can we capture Ben Mahidi that has fled into the mountains following his recent interrogation? Oh, we have 6 captured. So now, once again, it's 1 die, a single die, 4, 5 or 6 to see if we can finally capture the leader of this political cell, but this time it's area 1C. Let's see if we can find the whereabouts. If he, during his interrogation, tells us where Youssef Saadi is hiding out. Let's go. No! We needed a 4, 5 or 6. And again, no. That took 1, 2, 3 more ops points. We've only got 1 left. It's end of the game turn. And that's the end of the game turn. We make sure all our tracks, our ops tracks, are returned to 0. We move the season from winter into spring, and we start through our phases once again. I'd love to play through this a bit more, and maybe there'll be a future video. I don't know, I'm not sure, but the idea has been just to demonstrate the various phases. All of the mechanics have not been showcased, unfortunately, but certainly most of them, and enough to get you going if you still want to purchase the game or you have it on the shelf and have not yet tried it. The interaction between the mechanics are really quite complex, and certainly the strategies are very deep indeed. And I'm only just starting to scratch at the surface of those rather than simply going through the mechanics. Going through the mechanics for demonstration purposes is what we've done during this video. So I hope that's enough. And what a fascinating subject this is. The Algerian War of Independence from 54 to 1962. Ici, c'est la France. Here, it is France. Designed by Kim Kanger, and it's the 2nd edition from Legion Wargames. Thanks ever so much for following along. Thanks for taking a look. I really appreciate it. Please like this video and subscribe if you can, because it's really useful to me and will eventually help me create more and more content. So, thanks a lot. Tune in again soon for something very, very different as usual. See you then. Take care. Bye-bye.